kid from Perth smiled his way through the most dangerous sport on earth, turning every overtake into a statement and every race into a show. Daniel Ricciardo wasn't just another fast driver. He was Formula One's wildcard, a fearless force who danced through danger and made fans believe anything was possible. But behind that grin was a fighter, racing not just rivals, but the time, the politics, and a sport that moves on without mercy. So how did the most beloved driver on the grid go from winning races to fighting just to stay on the track? Daniel Ricciardo didn't step into the world of racing with fanfare or fortune, honestly. He started like so many do, on a humble kart track in Perth, chasing something most kids only dream about. But right from the beginning, you could tell there was something different. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to understand the race. And that's what made him stand out. As he moved through Formula Ford and Formula BMW, he kept proving it. He didn't dominate every weekend, but he delivered when it mattered. And that's what gets you noticed in this sport. He wasn't out there chasing attention. He was chasing progress. Then came the leap, Europe, the place where careers are made or broken. In British Formula 3, he didn't just survive, he adapted, improved, and made sure the right people couldn't ignore him. Red Bull picked him not for the hype, but because he delivered results with skill, patience, and fire when it mattered most. By the time Formula One came calling, it wasn't a lucky break. It was the next step in a journey he had built, corner by corner. But getting to the grid is one thing. Proving you belong there, that's where the real battle begins. Getting into Formula One is where the dream begins. But surviving it, that's where the fight for identity, respect, and everything you've worked for truly starts. And you see, for Daniel Ricciardo, that battle began at the back of the grid, where nothing comes easy and no one gets noticed unless they fight for it. In 2011, Ricciardo got his break with HRT, a slow and underdeveloped team. But he didn't focus on the car. He focused on proving he belonged. Despite the odds, he stayed composed, drove smart, and showed racecraft and maturity far beyond his rookie status. In 2012, he earned a promotion to Toro Rosso, Red Bull's junior team. For the first time, he had a proper seat, a full season, and the chance to show what he could really do. And he made that chance count. Over 2 seasons, he steadily built his reputation, out-qualifying his teammate, Jean-Éric Vergne, and delivering clean, consistent performances that marked him as more than just another rookie. Ricciardo didn't chase attention, he earned it, gaining trust in the paddock. By the end of 2013, Red Bull saw the potential and took the risk. They chose Ricciardo, and that one decision would change everything, not just for Daniel, but for the future of the entire team. In 2014, Red Bull gave Ricciardo a race-winning car, and he seized the moment. With wins in Canada, Hungary, and Belgium, he proved he wasn't a fluke, but a rising force in Formula One. Everybody was congratulating him on his victory. He wasn't just beating world champions. He was doing it with flair. Ricciardo brought life back to the grid, and fans couldn't get enough. Over the next few seasons, the wins slowed, but the respect only grew. From 2015 to 2017, he remained one of the most consistent, most entertaining, and most respected drivers on the grid. He fought every lap like it meant everything, and more often than not, he delivered. Then came 2018, the year that captured both his highest high and the beginning of his doubt. And his win in China was clinical. The victory in Monaco was heroic. Driving with a failing engine for over half the race, he held off Sebastian Vettel and brought the car home. It wasn't just a win, it was a masterclass in mental toughness. Ricciardo didn't need luck, he needed grit, and he had plenty of it. But while the results spoke for themselves, something inside Red Bull had shifted. The team was investing heavily in Max Verstappen, and Ricciardo, who had once been the face of Red Bull's future, now felt like a secondary figure in a story he used to lead. The wins were still possible, the belief was still there, but deep down, he knew the path forward wasn't as clear as it used to be. And that's when Daniel Ricciardo made the most shocking decision of his career, one that would define everything that came next. At the peak of his success, Ricciardo shocked everyone by leaving Red Bull, one of the top teams, for Renault, a midfield team with no recent wins and no clear path forward. Honestly, it looked like career sabotage, trading podiums for points and leaving a top team for uncertainty. In F1, chances like Red Bull don't come twice. Ricciardo wasn't chasing safety, he wanted a voice. At Red Bull, everything was shifting to Verstappen, and Ricciardo refused to play second fiddle or fade into the background of a team he helped build. It was a high-stakes move. And whether it paid off or not, one thing was clear. Ricciardo wasn't afraid to bet on himself. Now look what happened. Daniel Ricciardo was back, and he wasn't just switching teams. He was stepping into Renault with ambition, optimism, and the belief that he could lead a team back to the front. But from the very beginning, the gap was clear. The car lacked the speed to fight with the top teams, and the progress everyone hoped for never came fast enough. He was no longer chasing podiums, he was fighting just to stay in the points. For 2 full seasons, Ricciardo carried the burden of expectation without the reward. And as the team struggled to rise, Ricciardo's momentum began to stall. So, in 2021, Ricciardo joined McLaren, not as a gamble, but as a clear step toward redemption. The team was rising, the car had potential, and this was supposed to be his reset. But from the start, the fit wasn't right. Lando Norris adapted quickly, while Ricciardo struggled to unlock performance. The handling felt unnatural, and no amount of effort seemed to bridge the gap. Still, he kept pushing. And at Monza, everything came together. Ricciardo led from start to finish, delivering McLaren's first win in nearly a decade. It was a reminder of who he was, fearless, fast, and absolutely capable. For a moment, the story felt back on track. But that moment didn't last. The Monza win became an outlier in a season defined by inconsistency. Norris continued to lead the team, and Ricciardo continued to search for answers. By 2022, the pressure boiled over. McLaren terminated his contract a year early. And just like that, Ricciardo was no longer leading a team. He was fighting to stay on the grid. He returned to Red Bull in 2023, but not as the star he once was. This time, he came back as a reserve, a support role, a placeholder, a reminder of what used to be. For fans, it was painful to watch. For Ricciardo, the longer he stayed off the grid, the harder it became to see a way back in. Mid-season, AlphaTauri gave him a shot. They dropped Nick de Vries and brought Ricciardo in, not as a long-term solution, but as a temporary fix. And to his credit, he showed flashes of the old fire. But just as quickly, disaster struck. A crash in Zandvoort broke his hand and sidelined him for weeks. And in those weeks, the unthinkable happened. His stand-in, Liam Lawson, didn't just fill the seat. He delivered pace, composure, and maturity beyond expectation. The kind of performance that forces team bosses to stop and reconsider their long-term plans. Ricciardo returned in 2024 with RB, hoping to prove he still belonged. But the spark was gone. In a rare interview, Ricciardo admitted he wasn't sure if the fire was still there. No one needed to say it. The silence already had. This wasn't a crash. It was a slow, quiet goodbye. And it hurt more because it didn't try to be one. Daniel Ricciardo's career will be remembered for the wins, the overtakes, and the showmanship. But his legacy goes deeper than the statistics. He brought joy, personality, and heart to a sport that often forgets its human side. He didn't leave Formula One with a world title, but he left with something just as lasting: respect, admiration, and a legacy built on more than just lap times. Whether he returns or not, Daniel Ricciardo gave everything, and what he gave was unforgettable. This wasn't just about racing, it was about heart, sacrifice, and legacy. If it moved you, subscribe, because real stories don't end when the engine stops.